Okay, guys, I guess you could kind of say I'm picking up from where I left off yesterday. Really don't have nothing to compare it to, but that's a little better. I showed how I was stripping these and with the aircraft stripper, so the base plate's ready to go, but you know, it was together for a while and had some problems with the color that I wanted to achieve, but I think we're there now finally. What I didn't cover on that last video was certain things, like when you're dealing with this material, this zinc is kind of, it's nice, don't get me wrong. When you're machining, it's just so forgiving on a lot of things. It's almost like lead. But what I wanted to point out is it's very difficult, is like if you were to look at like these, if you look at it, it's kind of, it almost looks bubbly. I don't like this per se, but it's very difficult to get rid of that, because what's happening is, if you look here real close, like these areas right here and through here and up in here, I've relieved that, so to speak. Okay, I've basically what's happened here is it's real hard to get, unless you bake this thing at 500 degrees for an hour or better. What's happening is, it's anywhere that's been attacked by moisture, that's broken that, basically that background of that dichromate is on there for a reason. It's a protective coating. It's anti-corrosive. What happens with this zinc is, if it's exposed to any kind of moisture, it will start to oxidize, kind of like an aluminum, but it's more corrosive on the zinc aspect, in the sense that it will start pitting the material and actually eating material away. So essentially what's going on here is it's what they call outgassing. When you're dealing with any kind of cast material, I don't know about the zinc part of it, but most specifically, like on, say, an intake manifold, anything of cast nature, what happens is, to my understanding, is, you know, if they don't get the mold, I guess, or the molten material settled in to the mold, from what I've read, it's the nitrogen that gets trapped in the pores. I think it's nitrogen, I'm not for sure. I'm talking like I'm an expert on it, but I don't know that completely. The only thing that I know is the problems that it causes me when you expose it to extreme heat. So the only real way to alleviate that is a couple different ways. Obviously, you know, in the powder coat business, there's not a lot of information out there as far as concrete. Nobody wants to give up any info. There's classes out there from the vendors that offer the powder, but obviously those are too far away, and they cost money as well. So from what I've learned is, you know, the only way to be, there's a couple different techniques that I can get away from this, but on the carburetor bodies, it's I can somewhat get away from it and somewhat not. This, on the other hand, as you can see, is, you know, since I didn't hit this area, I've got some outgassing going on. I mean, we're talking 400 degrees here at this zinc. the outgassing is ridiculous, but sometimes that's what has to happen, because like I was talking in the other video, with this powder coat, to be able to be successful, as I've learned over the years, is the metal temperature has to be up to specific temperature based on the vendor as far as the powder itself. So, you know, back to the saying with the techniques and stuff, you know, that's why I kind of have so much pride in the fact that I do everything in-house, whether it's the machining part of it, the porting part of it, the coating part of it. I mean, the whole spectrum of processes that gets done on things that are what I do. The fact that I have to farm something out, I really hate, but essentially what that boils down to is the fact that I don't have the tooling to do it, or I just simply don't offer the services. So it's just kind of, you know, the trial and error to get to, you know, where everybody's at, as far as somebody might have a mentor and they may have took them under their wing or what have you. I haven't had that opportunity, and some days I'd like to, but at this point you just kind of have to do the research and just take in any kind of info that you possibly can. If this is, you know, if this is a passion of yours and you wanna move forward with it, I mean, it's out there. It's just like I was saying in my last video, you got to dig really deep. So, you know, while I'm not real happy with this aspect of it, the outgassing, which causes your powder, basically, for lack of better words, is what it's called. It bubbles. So it's that nitrogen that you're basically stress relieving it when you cook this material in such a hot environment. So then that comes back into play, where all these surfaces have to be trued, as well as the bottom and the bores and all that kind of stuff. So, but that's just kind of, you know, that's all internal to me. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not real happy with this overall finish right here, but it's cleared. I cleared over it. What that does is that kind of fills in some voids. On the flow bench, typically, I know a lot of guys say, well, you don't need a flow bench, you don't need this, or you don't need that. I personally believe on some aspects of it you kind of do. I mean, only in the sense that I know if I bead blasted this carb body and left it to where the pores are open, I think I had covered this in a video before, but you actually get some friction off of that, you know, and a lot of times if you cause friction when it comes to airflow, obviously, if there's friction in there, it creates heat. This is the last place you want to see heat. I mean, maybe I'm over analyzing a lot of things, maybe I'm not, I don't know. I don't have a whole lot of formulas to be feeding people, but I can just look at it on a common sense aspect of it. So that's kind of what I just want to cover. Just real happy with the outcome of the bowls. They look real nice. This carb should make some pretty damn good power. It's a 750, which after me, there's still more in it. I mean, I haven't narrowed the throttle shafts or any real, haven't, you know, done any real big mods to get any kind of big airflow. But as of right now, after all the porting and all that kind of stuff, is I've probably gained roughly 25 CFM, and a lot of guys will think, well, you know, in the carburetor business, the CFM really isn't a big thing. Well, it kind of is, in my opinion, due to the point, if you look at the Venturi versus the base plate and the whole taper aspect of it. I mean, if you can achieve more airflow and keep the Venturi the same, A lot of times the engine will think that it's still a smaller carburetor, but you've added airflow, so the low pressure signal from the Venturi to booster increases just because of the airspeed. So that's a whole nother story. But yeah, just kind of wanted to show that I finally achieved the finish that with the exception of the outgassing issue. I don't think that that's probably going to be a huge problem, but if it is, then I'll deal with it. But that's all for today. Thanks.